I wrote this morning about structure. I've been doing this series in my newsletter about John Wooden and fundamentals. I'm just so captivated
Mhm.
by the idea that if you put all the component parts together, then you can have a great whole. Of course, that doesn't always work. There may be another ingredient there, but I don't know how you could be very great without knowing how to do each of the fundamentals. And basketball is a closed system where, there's not too many variables. You've got your dribbling, you got your shooting, you got your passing. Um, and we started out last week talking about, or I started out last week talking about how the first thing they did in practice was here's how you lace up your sneakers. And it really sends a message that the details matter. And it was practical. He didn't want the players getting blisters. So he wanted them to get their socks just right so that they didn't have wrinkles since they didn't get blisters. So today I was writing about one of the fundamentals of writing, and it's one we talk about a lot, which is structure, or to cause trauma, outlining. Outlining. The me, we, God, you, we structure. I brought that up many, many times because it's one of my favorites, particularly for preaching, but I think it works well for essays too, and chapters and books. But there are a couple others that we could talk about right now. One of them is the classic arc. In the classic arc, you have a hook, you have a problem, you have some tension, you have a turn, and then you have a landing. In the hook, you have a concrete image, question, or statement that earns attention. So you say something that hooks. It's exactly what it sounds like. It's a hook. It's like you're fishing and you've got a hook and you've got to get it in. So what do you say that makes people pay attention? Maybe it's a statement, or maybe it's a question. And then and then you can bring up the problem. What's broken? What's missing? What is not understood? Then you've got some tension. You can aggravate it a little bit. Why does this matter? What does it cost that you don't know? What are the consequences of not understanding? And then the turn is the insight or the shift or the framing. When it's similar to when we say me, we, God, you, we, or we frame it as me, we, truth, you, we. And to remind you, me is I've got a problem. We is I'm not the only one that's got this problem. Lots of people have this problem. The Gallup poll said this last week, God or truth. But the big idea, the answer to the problem is this: God has the answer. Here's what it is. And then you, what are you going to do about it? What's the call to action? And then we, what if we all did this? Well, this is the turn is like the God part or the truth part, the insight, the shift, the reframing of the issue. And then there's the landing, which is the clear takeaway or the call to action. So the hook, the problem, the tension, the turn, the landing. So if you all think about what your thesis is or your core message, you could think of it in those terms. Somebody throw out a potential core message, bringing people together. Yeah, good. Let me think for a second because I just recently started listening to a book about gathering, how we gather, I think might be what it's called. So the hook is something, a concrete image. What kind of what could you use as a hook for something about bringing people together? Great example. So you got people you can describe there was a phenomenon and maybe there's like a twist when you're describing the phenomenon of the moon landing. I don't mean the landing itself. I mean what's happening all across the world, which is vast groups of people coming together to watch it. But the point is like you've made it. I kind of like this idea. The moon landing seems like it's going to be the thing, but it's not the thing. It's actually that all the people are gathered to watch it is the concrete image hook thing. So I like that example. The problem, uh, this is so stunning because today people really don't get together like they used to. Um, Bowling Alone is a book that was written a while back where people talk where it talks about how we don't have community groups anymore. We don't have people getting together anymore. There's a whole movie about it, where like what used to be strong, like Lions clubs and Elks clubs and lodges and community groups, we're just not doing that as much anymore. Okay, so now we go to the tension. What are some of the problems with the world, um, because we're unable to gather together anymore? And how,
People
and
don't
maybe,
want to.
maybe how has social media made it even worse by convincing us that we're in community when we're really only in community online, and actually that's a medium that's polarizing us, not bringing us together. Tension, and then the turn comes when you say, but the reality is God created us as communal beings. It says in Genesis chapter 2, it is not good for the man to be alone. And then you could come up with a couple of other places where we're shown it's shown that we're healthier in communities and wise crowds. And then the landing is the takeaway, which is, what can you do this week? What can you do this year? What kind of group could you join? What kind of commitment could you make to put your phone down when your family's in a room together? So that's the structure. So you got the hook, the problem, the tension, the turn, the landing, and you can outline the beats, and then once you outline the beats, then you can go in and fill in the meat on the bones. Okay, let's do one more structure. This is called claim and build. Claim, explanation, example, implication, application. Claim, explanation, example, implication, application. So you may want to like make a claim with an application. So the claim is the sentence that you're arguing. Okay, you're going to say, like for me, maybe I'm saying, if you're going to write an article, you really need to have structure. That's the claim. Explanation. What do I mean by that? If I don't have every argument, every article, every argument, every case that you're going to make needs an arc. It needs a beginning and a middle and an end. Because if you don't, people can't follow. The human mind won't follow the argument. If you start to meander, then I start to meander. Example. So claim, explanation, example. I was reading an article the other day and they said this, but then they said this, but then they said this, and I completely lost the plot. And pretty soon my mind was wandering and I wondered why I was wasting time reading this article. Implication, why this changes something. So claim, explanation, example, and then the implication is why is this going to change something if I do this? And then the application is what the reader should do differently, which is, basically put structure to your writing. Here, I'll do one more structural drill. Structure number 3 is personal reflection format. Personal reflection format. This happened. So you start with the example, a specific event or memory. You describe something that happened. What I thought then, what I see now, why it matters, what this means for you, the reader. Something happened, what I thought when it happened, but what I'm seeing now, the insight. Why does this matter? What's the broader principle? And what does it mean for you?